He once was a lord in every house gathered to. He was zapped by God through the internet. All this knowledge, all this power, guess he'll just debate some atheists on the internet.
Hey, Sodomites! I'm the Lord's chosen cat, Cece here, filling in for TJ today. This is Josh Feuerstein, Feuerstein, YouTube preacher, connoisseur of homophobic wedding cakes, and guy who literally might be Kevin James. Now, this is Muslim YouTuber Dawa Man, and if he looks familiar, it's probably because you once heard him say this.
On atheism, there's nothing wrong with drinking your dad's sperm.
Yes, this video, literally titled Would Atheists Drink Their Dad's Sperm, kinda sorta went viral and put forth the irrefutable argument that atheists should drink their dad's sperm because, well, they don't have morals or something like that. Anyhow, Dawo Man is back. He's got these two strange guys right next to him. I'm not quite sure why they're there. One of them happens to have one of the most disturbing receding hairlines I've ever seen in my life. And today they'll be responding to a video of Feuerstein's called Dear Mr. Muslim, a title that I assume they didn't find very patronizing. And so let's hear what they have to say.
Joshua, how are you doing, my friend? I have to say that your video refuting atheism was very inspirational and motivational. Definitely learned a thing or two from there.
Okay, now I really want to give major props to Dawa Man right here. I mean, who cares that we both worship deities who would torment the other upon a burning lake of fire for all of eternity for practicing a false religion? We could still find some common ground.
So, you were basically mentioning a few biblical verses from the Bible where Jesus claims to be divine.
Yes, and this is a rather airtight argument Feuerstein is presenting here. Jesus proclaimed himself the Lord in a 2,000-year-old book whose passages about him were written well over 5 decades after all supposed witnesses to his claims of divinity had perished. So yeah, he's the Messiah. You can't argue with that.
The Quran mentions one verse that kind of just seals the deal for me. God says that Jesus used to eat.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious, dude. Otherwise, the Last Supper would have been called the last time Jesus sat around watching everybody eat. Where are you going with this, man?
And once he had eaten, if he didn't take a dump, he would die.
What? You're talking about Jesus' feces here? That's really what we're talking about. Okay, well, hypothetically, if Jesus had to take a dump and for some really weird reason the anal route of escape was somehow blocked, do you really think that he couldn't just perform some kind of poop miracle to extract the feces from his colon? Come on, this is Jesus we're talking about, man.
So, he needs to eat and he needs to take a dump.
Actually, you know what, Dawa Man? You haven't even sufficiently proven that Jesus ever took a dump. There are no Bible verses, or Quran verses for that matter, talking about Jesus taking a crap, so, I'm just gonna have to say, citation needed.
Now that in itself shows me that Jesus is limited. God can't die if he doesn't get food. God can't die if he doesn't take a dump.
Okay, once again, you have no evidence that Jesus even took dumps, okay? There's no Bible passages that read, I am the way and the truth and the life. Now, excuse me while I go take a shit. That passage doesn't exist.
But just think about what you're attributing to God. You're attributing that God takes a doo-doo.
Yeah, and if indeed he did take doo-doos, I'm sure it was a rather amazing doo-doo. I'm sure his disciples would just gather around and stare at it for hours. It was probably more riveting than an episode of Game of Thrones. I mean, this is the Lord's chosen doo-doo we're talking about here.
What do I say to you? God doesn't use the toilet.
Of course he does. Where do you think Uranus came from?
Forgive me for painting a crude picture, but you're telling me God came out of the vagina of a woman?
As opposed to what? The anus of a giraffe?
Can you imagine like God coming out of the womb covered in blood, screaming, and a placenta hanging off of God?
Yeah, I can imagine that. Sounds totally badass. He probably cut the cord himself, then cauterized it with his heat vision, and used the umbilical cord to lasso a nearby goat or something.
And then God has a penis.
Wait, are you honestly saying that God doesn't have a penis? What, he's just walking around heaven like Marilyn Manson on the cover of Mechanical Animals? Okay, so what we've learned today is that Allah has no dick. Thank you very much, Dawa Man.
Joshua, the fact that people say that God, and the implications of it, that God, he takes a doo-doo, God has these organs and have been cut off and came out of a woman. The fact that you insult God in this way, not me, this is what God is saying, Josh. Please don't take offense at the words of God.
Oh yes, this isn't Dawa Man talking about Jesus taking a hot shit and being all covered in blood and schmegma and placental juices and God knows what the hell else. Josh, this is God saying it, so don't be mad at Dawa Man. He's just the messenger who's painting perhaps the most disgusting portrait of your God that you've ever heard or imagined in your goddamn life. So don't take offense.
Josh, I love you, man. I think you're amazing, guys. Seriously, thank you so much, man. God bless you.
Do you like making totally awesome decisions? Then consider subscribing to the Creationist Cat channel, where you'll see me poning the crap out of godless sodomites like TJ. You'll see interviews with awesome YouTubers. We got crazy dance parties going on up in this piece, TED Talks, and Super Kitty Hugs and Cuddles fun time. So if you like not making horrible mistakes, subscribe to my channel. You don't have to, but if you don't, you'll totally burn in hell. Later, sodomites!